Good morning. Good morning, Chair. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me okay? Okay.
Yes.
Good morning, Chair and members of the Commission. My name is Deborah Bradford, and I am the project planner for agenda item 4.2 for track map 32151 revision number 1 and plot plan 19442 revision number 1. The project site is located in the Rancho California zoning area, located north of Abelia Street, east of Winchester Road, south of Coon Street, and west of Washington Street. The project site is located within the boundaries of the Winchester 1800 Specific Plan number 286. The current general plan land use designations are medium density residential, commercial retail, and open space conservation. Land use designations to the north is commercial retail, to the east, medium high density residential, to the south, medium high density residential and open space conservation, to the west, commercial retail. The current zoning on the project site is specific plan number 286, planning areas 2A, 7, 8, 9, and 16A. To the north is planning area 8, to the east planning area 7, to the south planning area 9, and 16E, all within specific plan number 286. To the west is general commercial. Current land use is vacant land. Land uses to the north, south, and west comprise of vacant land, and to the east is agricultural. Tentative track map number 32151, revision 1, is a proposal for a Schedule A condominium subdivision totaling 180 residential units. The project site is comprised of approximately 43.3 gross acres and will be subdivided into 6 lots. These lots include Lot 1, which is the residential component and is comprised of approximately 22 acres. Lot 2 is the MSHCP conservation area and is comprised of approximately 13 acres. Lot 3 is the drainage slope lining comprised of approximately 1 acre. Lot 4 is for future commercial comprised of approximately 5 acres. Lot 5 is for park and is comprised of approximately ½ an acre, and Lot 6 is for the sewer access and comprised of approximately 1 acre. The revision to the track map includes limiting the impacts to the adjacent MSHCP conservation area, the addition of Lot 6 for sewer purposes, revisions to site grades, elevations, maintaining a secondary access to the site, and maintenance access to the existing channel. The proposed revisions will not result in a change in acreage or to the overall design of the site plan. The revised plot plan will remain primarily the same as originally approved and will provide for the development of 180 attached condominium units. There will be 32 two-bedroom units and 148 three-bedroom units. About 479 parking spaces are required. The applicant is providing 507 spaces. Access will be provided into the project site from Abelia Street, and secondary access for emergency purposes will be provided along the eastern boundary of the site, of the project site, exiting onto Coon Street. 2 detention basins are provided, and a community room and pool will be provided located within the center of the project site. Lastly, for the record, I wanted to bring to your attention the memo that was provided to you regarding an email of opposition and staff's response to that. With that, staff recommends that the Planning Commission take the following actions and find that no further CEQA review is required. Approve tentative track map number 32151, revision number 1, and approve plot plan number 19442, revision number 1. Thank you. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions for staff?
Yes, I do. I have just a couple. This is a condominium map, so it's a should be owner occupied, right? I mean, obviously, there's some issues relating to rentals that might occur later, but the number of units remains exactly the same, right?
Yes.
As under the specific plan. It's a transfer of density.
It remains the same as originally approved.
Okay, thank you.
Any other additional questions for staff? Thank you. Commissioner Sanchez?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we'll bring up the applicant or their representative. Yeah.
Good morning. My name is Jim Ryan. I'm with Lennar Homes, and I appreciate your time. I've had a good opportunity to work with Deborah and all the departments on this community. What you have before you is a revised tentative map. There's been a lot of technical items we've worked through: flood, fire, access, environmental, and we think we have a map now that is suitable for continued development. I've reviewed the conditions. And there was one modification that I was requesting, and it's with respect to the conveyance of parcel 2, the MSHCP parcel. And the conditions of approval, it states prior to grading permit or any final map that shall be conveyed. We actually have to create the final map in order to create the parcel to convey the land, and that could be a couple of months off. So I understand that there's a need to tie conditions to certain milestone events. So my recommendation would be to strike the prior to grading permit, prior to final map, and insert something in there such as, or replace it with prior to the 100th building final. That would be reasonable. We work with the RLC on many projects throughout Riverside County, and that process takes several months of meetings, so I think we would need the time to facilitate all that. That condition appears specifically on planning condition 6050 EP1, and it occurs another spot too, 060 planning EPD10. So that would be my recommendation. I did contact Deborah. You have an email I sent you on that, and Don Copeland requesting that. I also have in the audience Nate Smith with Rick Engineering, who's my civil engineer, and Camille Thomas McGee with Lennar Homes, and we're available for any questions you may have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I'd like to direct that question or the request to Mr. Bias.
Ken Baez with Planning Environmental Programs Division. That condition is a standard condition that we insert on all projects that have conveyance. The idea is to have the actual conveyance initiated through either donation agreements, so they can get that conveyance going. There's no requirement for them to record it. It's just easier for the applicant to do that. That's why we require it at that milestone to get initiated, so that when they actually start the actual process of finalizing that conveyance, it's done before they start building.
Okay. Very good. Again, any other direction?
What's the downside to the applicant's request? Maybe our city attorney, county council can work for cities too long. County council can weigh in on that.
Actually, I'll defer to Ken Baez to address that.
So it's not a legal issue?
It's a matter of the take issue, considering the MSHCP environmental documentation and requirement for the take permit under Endangered Species Act. Excuse me. The take occurs at grading, so the best way to deal with that is we've had problems in the past where lots may have been deeded off, in particular to schools or whatever. So we don't like to see that happen, because we have had issues where a lot has, or an area that's been designated for conveyance, deeded off to a school district. The school has been built, and the actual acreage that was required was not taken care of. So that's one of the reasons why we do it this way.
So they're not actually conveying, they just sign an agreement to convey. Is that?
Yeah, they're actually engaging at the grading or prior prior to recordation, whichever occurs first, in that donation agreement process. It's basically an agreement with the RCA that outlines the parameters at which they will be giving that land over and conveying it. So that's kind of contractually obligating them to do that.
One other question on the,
Very good. Again, any other direction?
what's the downside to the applicant's request? Maybe our city attorney, county council can work for cities too long. County council can weigh in on that.
Actually, I'll defer to Ken Baez to address that.
It's not a legal issue.
It's a matter of the take issue, considering the MSHCP environmental documentation and requirement for the take permit under Endangered Species Act. Excuse me. The take occurs at grading, so the best way to deal with that is and we've had problems in the past where lots may have been deeded off, in particular to schools or whatever. So we don't like to see that happen because we have had issues where a lot has, or an area that's been designated for conveyance deeded off to a school district. The school has been built and the actual acreage that was required was not taken care of. So that's one of the reasons why we do it this way.
So they're not actually conveying, they just sign an agreement to convey. Is that?
Yeah, they're actually engaging at the grading or prior to recordation, whichever occurs first, in that donation agreement process. It's basically an agreement with the RCA that outlines the parameters at which they will be giving that land over and conveying it. So that's kind of contractually obligating them to do that.
One other question on the, is that fenced off?
No, it's not accessible. It's going to be property of the RCA when it gets conveyed.
Thanks.
Commissioner Leonard?
Understanding this is a standard condition of approval, it does seem that the language could be subject to interpretation. What if it was the word provide the Regional Conservation Authority was substituted with initiate with the Constitution, with the Regional Conservation Authority instead of provide? That makes a little bit more clearly the intent to just get the process started rather than suggesting that it has to be completed.
I'd like to see the donation agreement executed and finalized before that milestone is met. So there's not a requirement for them to have a lot actually recorded and actually final map done. They can do that under sections of the Subdivision Map Act because the entity to which it's going to is a quasi-government entity. So therefore, there's no need for that to be done. It's just easier for them to do it that way because of the engineering and all the legal descriptions.
So executing the agreement is totally separate from having to record the map.
Correct.
Okay.
Did you have any? Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, with that, we'll go, do we have anyone online?
Mr. Chair, I have no speakers for this item online.
Okay, thank you. And we have no one here has submitted a card. With that, I will close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission.
I'll make a motion to staff recommendation.
Okay, with that, we'll call for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Aye.
Commissioner Leonard?
Aye.
Commissioner Thornhill?
Aye.
Commissioner Sanchez?
Aye.
Commissioner Cronky?
Aye. Thank you. Okay. With that, we'll come back to item 4.1. In staff's presentation.
GoPro, stop recording.